This is the sixth day of this July 2023 seven-day session, and today we'll take up a koan in the Mumonkan, also known as the Gateless Gate. It's number 11, Joshu and two Hermits. And I'm going to take a stab at the original Chinese name of Joshu. He was a Chinese master. The Japanese rendered the name Jiao as Joshu, but I see if we can stick to Jiao. And here, this is the case. Every koan has first the case, and then the commentary and the verse by Zen Master Mumon. That is, every koan in the Mumonkan has the three parts. So the first, the case. Zhao went to a monk's hut and said, "Are you in? Are you in?" The hermit lifted up his fist. Zhao said, "The water is too shallow for a large ship to anchor here." And he went away. He then went to another hermit's and called out, "Are you in? Are you in?" This hermit also held up his fist. Zhao said, "Freely you give, freely you take away, freely you bestow life, freely you kill," and made a profound bow. So Zhao appears in more koans in the Zen tradition than any other master. We have a lot of biographical material on him. I'll turn first to Andy Ferguson's Zen's Chinese Heritage, the masters and their teachings. We read from this earlier in Sesshin. His dates are 778 to 897. Again, this is the great Tang dynasty. And he was a disciple of the also famous Nansen in Japanese. It says that he had his first great awakening at the age of 18. And then he spent several decades training under Nansen, his teacher, until Nansen died. And then at that point, Zhao set out traveling on pilgrimage to visit other masters, other monasteries, to further refine his practice. Zhao's fame spread throughout China. Although he had 13 Dharma heirs, his lineage soon died out. There seems to be the greatness of the teacher doesn't seem to guarantee that the lineage will last. You can only imagine the different socio-psychological, political factors behind a lineage continuing. Certainly not make the mistake of thinking there was anything deficient about his lineage. You need more than a great teacher for a lineage to continue. He's also very famous for having reportedly lived to the age of 120. In Chinese astrology, the kind that you see on placemats in Chinese restaurants with the 12 animals, but I learned it's far more refined than that, much more sophisticated than that. A life cycle is 60 years. This is why in Asia, 60th birthday is a time of great celebration. The fact that Zhao Zhou's reported age is double that, 120, makes you wonder a little bit. Besides the most famous of koans, does a dog have Buddha nature? Mu. Here are some other exchanges with Zhao Zhou and others. First, the one is about his meeting the man who would become his longtime master, Nanchuan. When the young Zhao Zhou approached him, he was lying down and resting. And he asked Zhao Zhou, "Where have you come from?" And Zhao Zhou said, "I've come from Ryuxiang," which the translator here tells us means omen figure. Nanchuan said, "Did you see the standing omen's figure?" And then Zhao Zhou said, "No, but I've seen a reclining Tathagata, Buddha, a reclining Buddha," obviously referring to Nanchuan. Well, this got Nanchuan up off his chaise lounge, and he asked, "As a novice monk, do you have a teacher or not?" Zhao Zhou said, "I have a teacher." Nanchuan said, "Who is your teacher?" Zhao Zhou stepped in front of Nanchuan, made a prostration, and said, "In the freezing winter cold, a prostrate monk only asks for the master's blessings." And at this, Nanchuan approved his response and permitted him to enter the monk's hall and obviously become his student. When I was briefly on pilgrimage in Burma, now Myanmar, I guess, I spent a week there visiting temples, and was kind of stunned and amused to see these monks, these Theravada monks, stretched out on these kind of lounges. I don't know how else. In the most insouciant kind of sprawling kind of way. They just exuded indifference and cockiness. Just a little footnote here. In Southeast Asian countries, some Southeast Asian countries, well, Thailand for sure, but maybe they're similar in Burma. To become a monk is no lifetime commitment. They might do it for 3 months or 6 months, and I've been told by many people that it's a little bit like serving in the Israeli army. You're expected to do it. You go in for 3 months or whatever, and then you may leave, and then you may go back in later. What really slew me was when they would lie there with sometimes they're lying down with their legs crossed, one over the other, raised up. I don't know if you can picture that, but it's not unheard of. But anyway, lying there with a big old stogie that they're smoking in the most cocky way. Well, there's nothing here about Nanchuan smoking a cigar, but it's interesting. Where would that be where Zhao Zhou approached him and he was lying, reclining somewhere? Anyway, There are so many koans that I won't read that involve Joshu. So I'll just stick to the non-koan anecdotes here. One day, Joshu asked Nanchuan, where do people with wisdom go when they die? In other words, we could assume he means when the enlightened die, where do they go? And Nanchuan says, they go to be water buffaloes down at the base of the mountain. Joshu said, thank you for your instruction. Nanchuan said, last night during the 3rd hour, the moon reached the window. It sounds, it's hard to know quite what he meant there. It sounds like approval of Joshu's response. But the thing about the water buffalo, this is in the tradition, the Zen tradition, that after awakening, we go down the mountain. Going up the mountain is on the way up to awakening, and then after awakening, we go down to the base of the mountain to become water buffaloes. Water buffalo being the sort of the quintessential symbol of service. If awakening has any purpose at all, it's to serve, to then help others. One day Joshu was sweeping. A monk asked, the master is a great worthy. Why are you sweeping? By the way, by the time he began teaching, he was 80. So all of these dialogues with him as the master means he's 80 or 90 or 100 or more. A monk asked, the master is a great worthy. Why are you sweeping? Joshu said, dust comes in from outside. The monk said, it is a pure temple. Why then is there dust? This is, the monk is no beginner. He's sort of challenging Joshu. It's a pure temple. Why then is there dust? And Joshu said, there's some more. The next one is a little longer. Joshu addressed the monks. I'm just pulling out an extract from a long passage. Essential mind is unborn. The myriad dharmas are flawless. Try sitting for 20 or 30 years, and if you still don't understand, then cut off my head. The empty flowers of delusion and dreams, disciples work so hard to grab them. Just the myriad dharmas are flawless. Dharmas just means things, phenomena, everything we can imagine is flawless. He continues, when nothing deviates from mind, then the myriad dharmas are but one thusness. Since it can't be attained from outside, what will you try to grasp? You're like goats, haphazardly picking up just anything and keeping it in your mouth. And then he quotes Yao Shan, another great master. People ask me to reveal it, but when I teach, it is like something taken from a dog's mouth. And then Joshu says, what I teach is like something taken from a dog's mouth also. Take what I say as dirty. Don't take what I say as clean. Don't be like a hound always looking for something to eat. This is an acknowledgement that many of the great masters made, the acknowledgement that somehow this, just as it is only diminished through words. One master put it this way. He said, "It is like a cup of a cup of fine soup befouled by rat droppings." It is in our tradition to give talks. That's what teachers do. But we do so knowing that it's a double-edged sword, that we can cause misunderstandings by depending on how the words are taken. Sometimes I have to deal with those misunderstandings in Doksan after Teisho. Try not to think about it too much. Just speak from one's heart, one's experience, and hope that some benefit from it. But tomorrow is the last day of Sesshin, and I'm going to again not give a Teisho. There's something about the last day of a 7-day Sesshin, something about the magnificent silence that I just don't want to monkey with. Another time, Joshu asked a monk, "How many sutras do you read in one day?" The monk said, "Sometimes 7 or 8, sometimes 10. Joshu probably knew that this monk was enamored of the sutras and was a voracious reader of them, studying on them. Sometimes 7, or sometimes 8, sometimes 10. Joshu said, "Oh, then you can't read sutras." Monk said, "Master, how many do you read in a day?" Joshu said, "In one day I read 1 word." Another time, Joshu entered the hall, addressing the monks, saying, "When a person of understanding," I'm doing my own translation that I remember from many years. When a person of true understanding expounds a false doctrine, it becomes true. When a person of no understanding expounds a true doctrine, it becomes false. It's a very important point in Zen. It's not the words, it's not the doctrine, it's the understanding or the lack of understanding behind it. One teacher can say the same thing as another teacher, but it can one can be true and the other false. have some, turning to a different source here, someone, a student many years ago, gave me a collection of short exchanges with Joshu. Someone asked, "Master, where is your mind focused?" Joshu said, "Where there is no design." He was, my guess is that Joshu, like most of these great masters in the Tang dynasty or the Sung dynasty, his practice was shikantaza, just bare attention, bare awareness of everything inside and outside, without any object of concentration. So then where is your mind focused? Where there's no design. You could also take, this might be going too far, but you could take the word design in the old-fashioned way of having a scheme or an ambition where there is no design. Here's another jewel. A monk asked, "What is the principal concern of the one wearing Buddhist robes?" And Joshu said, "Not to deceive himself." Someone asked, when the one, this is an awkward translation, I'm trying to make it better on the spot, when the one moving toward liberation vows to strive for the utmost enlightenment, how about that? Joshu said, when not yet liberated, you are used by enlightenment. When liberated, you use it. So before awakening, the thought of it is just a blight on the mind. To hold it in the mind is something we are grasping for. Afterward, our job is to use it for the sake of all sentient beings. This one I particularly like. A monk asked, "What is the ultimate word?" Joshu coughed. The monk said, "That's it, isn't it?" And Joshu said, "Alas, they won't even let me cough." Another very short one. Someone asked, "Naturalness, what is that?" Joshu said, "This asking is in itself unnatural." Someone asked, "The way of the monk, what is it?" Joshu said, "Being detached from the way." Again, the danger of internalizing labels, identities. One more, I swear. A monk saw a cat and asked, "I call it a cat. Master, what do you call it?" Joshu said, "You calling it a cat." All right. In the small amount of time we have left, I'll go to the koan itself. Joshu went to a monk's hut and said, "Are you in? Are you in?" Another translation of this challenge is, is the master in? Are you, the master, present? Referring, of course, to this original nature of ours. Are you in? Are you in? The hermit raised his fist. Joshu said, the water is too shallow for a large ship to anchor here. And off he went. He then went to another hermit's. By the way, sometimes this is cast, the case is cast as two different hermits, but it doesn't matter. In terms of a koan, it doesn't matter a bit if there are one or two. He then went to another hermit's and called out, are you in? Are you in? The hermit also raised his fist. Joshu said, freely you give, freely you take away, freely you bestow life, freely you kill. And he made a profound bow. So on the face of it, he certainly seems to be finding fault with the response of the first hermit, and then with the second hermit finding it, approving it completely. When people work on this koan, I tell them right off the bat, let's save you some time and just assume that they're raising their fists exactly the same. It's not really giving away too much to say that. It just makes it all the more perplexing. They're raising their fists exactly the same. So why then does he say to the first one what appears to be disapproval, and to the second one very strong approval? It's the nub of the koan. These masters were always watching the monks and other masters, watching to discern their level of understanding, where they're coming from. And there's really very little that gives you more information than to see how anyone, doesn't have to be a monk, how anyone responds to praise and criticism. It's a great test. In Buddhism, there are what are called the 8 winds. Winds being those which have the potential to unsettle us, knock us off balance. And these are the 8 winds. There are 4 pairings. One is, yes, praise and blame. Another is pleasure and pain. The next is fame and disrepute. And the last pair is gain and loss. Each one of these, we can face in a day, just going through a day in our life, we can face any one or all of these. And they will indicate to what degree we're attached to the self. And its acquisitive nature. There's a passage from one of my favorite books of universal wisdom, let's say. This is from The Man of Many Qualities, a legacy of the I Ching. It's a rich compilation of stories from all over the world, from all different centuries, based on the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. And now here's how this one goes. Man's mind is more treacherous than mountains and rivers, and more difficult to know than the sky. For with the sky you know what to expect in respect of the coming of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and the alternation of day and night. But man hides his character behind an inscrutable appearance. There are those who appear tame and self-effacing, but conceal a terrible pride. Roshi once or twice said to me, watch out for the quiet ones. And you can see that even with these mass shootings. So often they say, "Oh, he was so quiet; he was just kept to himself." But to continue here, there are those who appear tame and self-effacing, but conceal terrible pride. There are those who have some special ability, but appear to be stupid. There are those who are compliant and yielding, but always get their objective. We know these people, don't we? Some are hard outside, but soft inside. And some are slow without, but impatient within. Therefore, a gentleman is the word used in the Confucian tradition to mean someone who's highly developed, wise, a wise person. Therefore, a gentleman sends a man to a distant mission, in order to test his loyalty. He employs him nearby in order to observe his manners. He gives him a lot to do in order to judge his ability. He suddenly puts a question to him in order to test his knowledge, and makes a commitment with him under difficult circumstances to test his ability to live up to his word. He trusts him with money in order to test his heart, and announces to him the coming of a crisis to test his integrity. He makes him drunk in order to see the inside of his character, and puts him in female company to see his attitude toward women. Submitted to these 9 tests, a fool always reveals himself. But such an elaborate regimen is unnecessary in ordinary the course of things in our lives. If we're attentive, if we're mindful, we see people revealing themselves all the time. In terms of Zen, it's always on display. How they walk, how they carry themselves, posture, how they respond. Above all, how they respond to anything in particular, but of course, especially praise and blame. I used to say to people on staff, something would happen, and who left the lid off the yogurt in the staff kitchen, and I always was proud of anyone who would say, I did it, which hasn't always been the case over the years. Sometimes just silence. Our poor mother used to go crazy. There were 6 of us kids, and there was something, I don't know, a vase broken or something, and she'd say, who did it? She'd go around interviewing each person. and the last one would say, no, I didn't. And she'd say, nobody did it. But it's just about not having your mind clogged with thoughts. When your mind is empty, relatively free of thoughts, we see so much, we hear so much, we sense so much. There are some koans that have kind of a dual level to them. They can, and on the one hand, the master is what his response to the monk is for the purpose of changing the monk. We sometimes call this sort of the training or the teaching aspect. This is teaching in the conventional sense. I'm going to teach you something. There's that. It can be. But then even simultaneous with that can be the essential aspect. That is, it has nothing to do with changing the monk, helping the monk. It's just the way things are. What's going on here with Zhao responding in opposite ways to the very same response on the part of the hermits? We don't know how the hermits responded. Each one responded to his response. It's not important in terms of the koan. We might reflect, how would I respond if my teacher said, the water's too shallow for a large ship to anchor here? Or the other way, the deep bow. We'll go on now to the commentary. That's the commentary by Zen Master Mumon in Japanese. And he just kind of articulates the dilemma here. Both stuck up their fists. Why did he approve one and not the other? Just say, what is the core of the complication? If you can give a turning word on this point, you will see that Zhao is unrestrained in saying what he wants to say, utterly free either to help the one rise up or to push the other down. But though this is so, remember that the two hermits also saw through Zhao. Further, if you say the one hermit is superior and the other inferior, you do not have an open eye. Neither have you an open eye if you suppose there is no difference between the two hermits. I'm just going to leave this with no comment. No comment on the commentary. Leave it for people when they work on this in Doksan. And then the verse, Wumen's verse. His eye is a shooting star, his spirit like lightning. He is a death dealer, a life-giving sword. Talking here about Zhao. And then these last two lines, he's a death dealer, a life-giving sword. With respect to the death dealer, there's one more little exchange here involving Zhao. One day Zhao was walking with an official in a park. A rabbit saw them and became alarmed and ran away. The official asked Zhao, "Master, you are a great worthy. When the rabbit saw you, why did it run away?" As if the rabbit can recognize the Zen master. It's such silliness. What about the startled response? What about any animal's reflex? You're a great worthy, great master. Why would the rabbit run away? And Zhao says, because I'm good at killing. It is squarely in the middle of a Zen teacher's job description, to kill when killing is necessary. That is, to expose the ego when it's called for. And that can mean, well, obviously means correcting at times, correcting a student. It can mean harshness. Compassion doesn't have to be just sweet and approving. Sometimes it's the most compassionate thing to speak sharply to a student. Or it doesn't have to be a teacher and a student. It can be, think of a good friend. You have a good friend who you think is making a mistake, is deceiving himself, to use a phrase we read earlier, a response by Joshu, not to deceive himself. That is our ultimate aim. And we can at times need to be strong and what they call here kill. And there are other times, of course, when it's the opposite, the affirming. Not the negative, but the affirming. And different teachers have different ways they use these in different proportions. Roshi Kapleau was very harsh, very critical. I think, honestly, I could say that in all my years with him, I could count the fingers on one hand the number of times he praised me. And then when I went to Japan and was training with a teacher there, it was the opposite. I was baffled. It was just all kinds of praise. And in that context, one way to understand that is that in Japan, that you're receiving praise, you're expected to live up to that praise. You've got a responsibility now. A life-giving sword, double-edged sword. All right, we'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.